Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So it's not real clear to me. um, Hadi Vilas Prabhu is going to contact me separately. Okay. Um, so we're starting now. I'm not sure what the devotees in New York are wanting me to do. If you want me to, I don't know that I can share while I'm live on the page you gave to me. Maybe you can share there. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and start. Goragaganya gana gocha goloduharam Goranga gudatama gopyada kopa briksham Gopalagada ratidam yati singha gora Govinda deshikavaram satatam namah Uttama adama kichuna bachila janchiya dileka kola Kahe premananda emona goranga hridaya dariya bola Bhaja goranga kaha goranga laha gorangera namare Jai jana goranga bhaje Se hoyamara pranare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kadachit kalindi tatavipina sangita karavo. Mudabiri nari kabadana kamalaspada madupa Rama Shambhu Brahma Madapati Ganesha Chitapado Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatame Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatame Nilachala Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannatha Hite Namaha Vanchakopadarubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Vyayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha. I just shared it. Okay now.
Sorry?
Okay, I just shared it on the page.
They shared it.
I did.
Shared on their page.
I shared it on the page.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Sorry for we're just trying to work out some technical details right now because in New York City the devotees are observing a Ratha Yatra festival. And so they asked me to come and say a few words about that. I'd like to tell you something of very amazing secret things about Lord Jagannath, the Lord of the universe. For those of you who may be new persons, so Lord Jagannath, like our friend Lynn McDougall, Lord Jagannath is an ancient deity in Jagannath Puri, in Orissa. And from Jagannath, when the first British Christians came to India, they saw this festival going on with sometimes 1 million people taking part in the festival. And they gave a name to that from Jagannath. The word came Juggernaut, which means something which cannot be stopped, something which rolls over everything. And that name came from Jagannath Ratha Yatra. So just as we've all been locked up, it's a very interesting thing. Also, Jagannath becomes locked up. And just as there's a deep purport to his lockup, we can also find a purport in our lockup. The Jagannath Ratha Yatra Festival has a lot of different purport to it. It indicates a journey from one place to another, Before we begin a journey, the first thing is we make some plan. But that plan actually begins with desire. Where do I want to go? What is my desire? So we're speaking something about Ratha Yatra. And this Ratha Yatra festival is all based on desire. And this takes place, it begins with the anavasara ceremony, and then it comes to the Ratha Yatra. In Jagannath Puri, there are 10 different festivals which are mentioned, main festivals for Lord Jagannath. And generally, there's a list of festivals. They begin with the Snan Yatra, or the Snan Purnima. But the Snan Yatra itself begins about 4 days before that with a festival called Rukmini Harana or Rukmini Vivaha. One of our friends in Puri just sent me an invitation a few days ago to take part in that festival. That's the marriage day of Lord Jagannath with Lakshmi. And it's a very romantic occasion. So I'd like to speak something about this and the significance that it has with Ratha Yatra and the meaning of Ratha Yatra and the meaning of the return Ratha Yatra. There's a lot of things we want to speak about today, a lot of information. So stay close with us and listen carefully. The Shukla Ekadasi, or the light Ekadasi of the month of Jaishta, May, June, is also known as Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi. And on that day, inside the Jagannath Mandir, there's a special ceremony known as Rukmini Harana or Rukmini Vivaha. It's the marriage of Jagannath and Lakshmi Devi. And there's one priest, he dresses up as Shishupal, and he comes and he tries to oppose the marriage. And then Shishupal's tied up and made prisoner, and then a Panda representing Balaram comes and releases him, just exactly as described in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. And then it's very romantic. All the young ladies will like this very much. Lord Jagannath and Lakshmi Devi, they take their cloths and they tie a knot in their cloth. We have a phrase in the West, the sacred knot. The sacred knot, I think, originally comes from Vedic culture. It's part of the marriage ceremony. When the husband and the wife are married together, they have the sacred knot. So then 4 days later comes Lord Jagannath's public bath, which is known as Snan Purnima. And Lord Jagannath, he gets bathed with 108 pots of water, they say, which comes from a special well inside the Jagannath temple called the Sunakua, which means the golden well. And that well is only used with water for this particular festival. So Lord Jagannath, he takes his public bath, and after his bath, it's said that he becomes sick. And this sick time is called anavasara. And it's spoken about by Srila Prabhupada in his purport to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 1, text 122. Prabhupada says in the purport, the word anavasara is used when Sri Jagannath Ji cannot be seen in the temple. After the bathing ceremony, Snan Yatra, Lord Jagannath apparently becomes sick. He's therefore removed to his private apartment where no one can see him. Actually, Prabhupada says during this period, renovations are made on the body of the Jagannath deity. This is called Navayovana. During the Ratha Yatra ceremony, Lord Jagannath once again comes before the public. Thus, for 15 days after the bathing ceremony, Lord Jagannath is not visible to any visitors. So just as the coronavirus pandemic and the quarantine, the lockdown that we found ourselves in, it's a very mysterious thing. But the original lockdown was with Lord Jagannath, and that's also a very mysterious thing. How is it that Lord Jagannath gets sick? Our revered spiritual master, Sri Srimad Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he used to say that Jagannath doesn't become sick. Jagannath is Navayovana. He's eternally youthful. There's no question of him becoming sick. He's God. And nowhere in Skanda Purana is it mentioned that he's sick. But in the local tradition, it's considered that he's sick. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada writes about it in his purport, and he uses this word anavasara. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 13, text 23, a different word is used, nibrita. And there it said, Pancha Dasadina Ishvara Mahalakshmi Lana, Tana Shangi Krida Koila, Nibrite Vasiya. For 15 days, Pancha Dasa, Lord Jagannath remains in a secluded place with the supreme goddess of fortune, and he performs his pastimes there with her. The word Nibrita means a solitary place, and Prabhupada writes in his purport there, the 15-day period of anavasara is also called Nibrita in honor of the solitary place where the supreme goddess of fortune lives. After living a fortnight there, Lord Jagannath took permission from the goddess of fortune to leave. Well, something like that. We'll speak something more about that. So what is the general meaning of anavasara? Anavasara in Sanskrit, the general meaning is something which is ill-timed. It means an absence of leisure. You're not having a good time. Anavasara means a sick time, a time of being ill. But there's another more confidential meaning if we break the word up into its different parts. The word ana means to get a small breath. And the word ava means to be determined and generous. And it also means to get pleasure, wealth. Avas means to move towards something, towards sar. So literally speaking, the word anavasara also means to get a small breath, to move towards love. This is a very interesting thing. What is it? Anavasara means, they have these two meanings. One general meaning is that it's a time of sickness, it's an absence of leisure. But a more literal meaning of the Sanskrit words is getting a small breath, ana, being determined to move avas towards the sara, anavasara. Sara means the essence of things. Or getting a small breath to move towards love. Who is Lord Jagannath? And what is the Jagannath Ratha Yatra? Some years ago, we were at one large festival in Europe, and the devotees asked me to speak about Ratha Yatra and explain the meaning of Ratha Yatra to the crowd that was there. Now, I looked out in the crowd, and I observed I saw maybe 10 or 20 devotees. There were hundreds of people there, and most of them had beers in their hands and cigarettes, and some of them had hamburgers, and some of them had their arms around girls, so I wasn't completely sure whether wives or girlfriends, but anyway, it was a mixed crowd, and I had some serious doubt that they could really understand something very deep about Ratha Yatra. So then I explained the festival to them in one simple sentence. I said that Ratha Yatra means rescuing God from mechanical religion and bringing him to the village of our heart. This is Ratha Yatra. And I told them that Ratha Yatra means it's a celebration that when the devotee cries for God, God cries for his devotee. And we generally consider, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we consider that Lord Jagannath is Vrindavan Bihari Krishna. Kadachit kalindita tavipina sangita kadava. It's described in the first verse of Jagannath Ashtakam that Lord Jagannath is Vrindavan Krishna on the bank of the Jamuna, playing his flute and casting his glance on the gopis of Vrindavan. But now he's become captured by a group of people who are saying he's God, and they're worshiping him in such a way. And the residents of Vrindavan, they want to rescue him from that mechanical kind of religion and bring him to the village of their hearts. That's Ratha Yatra. So another meaning then of Anavasara is the period which begins before the Ratha Yatra. Just as we said, Ratha Yatra indicates a journey. So a journey begins with a plan, and the plan begins with desire. So what is the desire of Lord Jagannath? What is the desire of Krishna? Krishna now, he's in Dwarka, and he's been captured by a group of people who are worshiping him as God in a very opulent way. But Krishna misses the love of the residents of Vrindavan. And so he makes up some excuse. He says, today's my birthday, and I would like to go to the Snan Mandap. We'll speak more about that place a little later, where Lord Jagannath gets his official bath. I want to go there to get my bath so I can give darshan to my devotees. But according to the residents of Jagannath Puri, the internal reason for Lord Jagannath going there, he has both an antaranga karn and a bahiranga karn. His external reason he gives is because it's my birthday. And we'll also speak something more about that. Jagannath has 2 birthdays, actually he has 3, but that's another topic. One is Janmashtami, and the second is the day of Snan Purnima. And how that is, we're coming to that topic. So Jagannath Krishna tells the Pandas that it's my birthday, I want to go and get my public bath, and I want to give darshan to my devotees. But his real desire is he wants to see the residents of Vrindavan. Because from the top of the Jagannath Mandir, especially in those days before all the buildings came up, you can see to the Gundicha Mandir, which represents Vrindavan. And why that represents Vrindavan, we'll also speak in a minute or two about that. So he goes there with this strong desire. I'm feeling so much separation he's feeling from the gopis and Radharani. But when he goes on top of the wall and he sees Vrindavan and he's thinking of the rich Basis, something else happens to him. And he becomes lovesick, what we would call Vipralamba Jvara, or the fever of separation. And then comes the anavasara period, an absence of leisure, an ill time, or a time getting a small breath to move towards love. Anavasara means now he's getting a small breath. He's not being surrounded so much by all these people. Who is he being surrounded by? We'll speak something more about that in a couple of minutes also. But it's a setup. The anavasara period is preparing him to move toward love, which is a Ratha yatra festival. And the anavasara, this means then getting a small breath to move toward that love. And as we read, it also means nibritta. Nibritta means in a solitary place. It also means in Sanskrit inactive or out of sight. It means to be concealed or hidden. Another meaning of nibritta then is Jagannath's hidden secret. The anavasara then literally means 2 things: getting a small breath to move toward love. Now finally I'm getting a breath away from all this opulence and mechanical religion to move toward love. He's going to begin the Ratha Yatra festival. And the second meaning is Jagannath's hidden secret. So this is a very beautiful meditation, I think, for all of us at this time also, because we also have a journey in life, and we want to journey toward love. But there's so much disruption going on around us. Some people, they call it the, what is it? It's a nice phrase. We have so much information. A bombardment of information is a nice phrase, not coming to my mind. It's a bombardment of information toward us all the time. And we need a small breath. So now Krishna's giving us a small breath as devotees, so we can get a small breath so that we can move toward love. And we have a lockdown period. And this lockdown period for the devotees is nibritta. It means our hidden secret. Where we're doing our bhajan, whereas usually the devotees are going out in public, but now it's become nibritta. So during the anavasara period, as soon as Lord Jagannath is placed down, he's brought into the inner sanctum, and they put the deities down on the floor. It marks the beginning of the period of illness. And then the temple is completely locked up, and no one but the Daityapatis and a devotee who's known as a Pati Mahapatra can enter where the deities are residing. The Pati Mahapatra, he's one of the leading devotees. He belongs to a division of servants of Jagannath they call Swaras. The Swaras are said to be descendants of the union of the tribal chief Vishvavasu's daughter, Lalita, and King Indradyumna's Brahmin envoy, Vidyapati. For those of you who don't know who Vidyapati is and Lalita and King Indradyumna, I'm very sorry. It's too complicated to try to tell that whole story also. Well, briefly we can say that Indradyumna Maharaj heard that the deity of Nilamada was being worshipped by some tribal persons. And he sent his Brahmin Vidyapati to find out about it. And he went there, and Nilamada was being taken care of by a tribal chief. Actually, they're considered to be pig farmers and tribal people. His name was Vishvavasu. And Vidyapati managed to have darshan of Nilamada. And while he was there, it became romantic. And he married Lalita, the tribal chief's daughter, and then later came back to Indradyumna Maharaj, and making it very, very simple, for those of you who know the story more elaborately. And later he brought Indradyumna Maharaj to Orissa to have darshan of Nilamada, and they found the deity had disappeared. So to this day, in the Jagannath Mandir, the persons who cook for Lord Jagannath, they're called Swaras. And they're considered to be descendants of that Brahmin envoy of Indradyumna Maharaj, Vidyapati, and the daughter named Lalita of Vishvavasu. Lord Jagannath has different sevaks. Some of the Daityapatis, and those Daityapatis, such as the Swaras, the cooks, they have a right to cook for Lord Jagannath. The Swaras, they're descendants of Vidyapati. So they're considered something like Brahmins, but they're also descendants of Lalita. And Lalita was a tribal person. So they're the cooks for Lord Jagannath, and they call them the Swaras. Now, Vidyapati also had a Brahmin wife, and their descendants were Lord Jagannath's pujaris, the puja pandas. Whereas the descendants of Vishvavasu, aside from his daughter, those are known as the Daityas. And they have the right to worship Lord Jagannath during the Ratha Yatra festival, during the anavasara period, like that. So Lord Jagannath seems to become sick. And during this time, no one is allowed inside. Only the Pati Mahapatra goes there. And as we said, he's considered to be a descendant of Vidyapati and Lalita. And they do some special offerings. It's called Sabari Puja. It's very interesting. They bring raw fruit, like fruits and milk products and things, from a vana, from a forest, something like Vrindavan. Because now Jagannath Krishna, he's feeling lovesick. And what kind of medicine are they going to give him? They're going to give him the fruits of Vrindavan. And the system they follow in Puri amongst the Daityapatis, because they consider that Lord Jagannath is, to use a colloquial American expression, he's their homeboy. He's a member of their family. And so they peel the fruits and they first taste them. This is their puja that they do in Puri. Now this is completely shocking, because Lord Jagannath, he's worshipped in such a very opulent way, with so many rules and regulations by the puja pandas. But at the same time, there's another side to him, a very sweet side. And therefore, our revered spiritual master, Gaura Govindra Maharaj, used to say that Lord Jagannath is Aishvarya Madhurja Yugala Milan Shri Jagannath. He's a combined form of both sweetness and opulence. And we see the opulence, he's staying in the Sri Mandir, and he's captured by mechanical organized religion. But we see the sweet side in the Sabaras who are worshiping him. And it's so sweet during the anavasara, when they're offering him these fruits when he's sick, they first peel them and they taste them to see if they're ripe. And after they taste them, then they offer them to the deities. And when they peel the fruits, they don't have a trash bin or something, they just throw them on the floor. That's the system they do in Puri, seriously. And they say that that's the same type of worship that their ancestor, the tribal chief Vishvavasu, was doing in the forest. And those Daityapattis who are considered to be blood relatives of Jagannath, they sleep and eat right there along with Lord Jagannath. So this goes on for 15 days. And what is the significance of these 15 days of the anavasara period? This anavasara period, which, as we said, indicates a breath going toward love, taking a breath and going toward love. Mm-hmm. To understand that, we need to know something about the origin of Lord Jagannath and how he was installed by Indradyumna Maharaj. Indradyumna Maharaj, he made Indradyumna Sarovar, which is still there today, not far from the Gundicha Mandir. We often take devotees there. And it's a nice lake there, which is formed by Indradyumna Maharaj when he was pouring water, when he was giving charity to the Brahmins. The Brahmins, when you give charity to them, you're supposed to pour some water from a copper pot into their hands, and you give them some money then, or whatever it is you're giving them. And he gave so much charity, it created this big lake. So he took bath there in that Indradyumna Sarovar. There's a ritualistic bath ceremony called the Abhibrita Snan, done after the Ashwamedha Yajna. And after he finished the whole rituals, they performed that in the place today, which is known as Chakratirtha, which is not far. We were staying we've been living in Orissa and Jagannath Puri now for about 25 years. And our ashram previously was right near that area in Chakratirtha. And there's a deity installed at that place known as Chakra Nishringha. He's called Chakra Nishringha. He's also called Adi Nishringha or Lakshmi Nishringha. And that's the place where originally Indradyumna Maharaj took his bath, his Abhibrita Snan in the ocean there. And as soon as he took his bath ceremony, then suddenly a huge log of wood arrived there on the shore. And its roots were pointing toward the ocean. The top of the tree was pointing toward the land. And on that tree were four symbols: the Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, the conch shell, the club, the lotus, and the disc. And the king who was there, Narad Muni, was with him. Indradyumna Maharaj asked Narad Muni, "What is this log?" And Narad Muni told him that before you discuss this thing, you should first worship the sun god. And so then he did that. And then Narad Muni explained to him that actually this huge log is one hair of Lord Vishnu from Sweta Dweep. That's what this log is. Now that's interesting also because in the Vishnu Purana, as discussed by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Laghu Bhagavatamrita, it says there that Krishna and Balaram were a white hair and a black hair taken from the head of Mahavishnu. And Rupa Goswami then goes on to explain that although it's said like that, still Krishna is the source of Mahavishnu. Just like a person may walk through a doorway, and you may say, oh, the doorway is the source of that person, because they walk through the doorway. But actually, the person who walked through the doorway may be a carpenter who created the doorway. You're just seeing him at a later date when he comes walking through the doorway, and incorrectly you're thinking that the person is the source of the doorway. He's not. Excuse me, you're thinking the doorway is his source. Rather, it's the opposite. He's the source of the doorway. So they got together some soldiers to pull that log, but they couldn't move it. Thousands of soldiers couldn't move it. They got huge elephants. They couldn't move that log. And then there was an Akashvani, a voice from the sky, and it said only when there's cooperation, because Lord Jagannath means cooperation. Only when Vishvavasu and Indradyumna Maharaj come together will this log be moved. And so just the two of them came, representing again sweetness and opulence. And they took a hold of the log, and very easily they moved the log, and they took it to a place called the Adapa Mandap, which is the Yagyasal of Indradyumna Maharaj, and that place is the Gundicha temple, where Lord Jagannath appeared. And Lord Jagannath, Indradyumna Maharaj asked Narad Muni, what kind of deity should we make? And at that time, there was an Akashvani, a voice from the sky, who said, Suguptayam Mahavedyam Swayam So Avatishyati Prachadyatam dinosyasa jab panchadashanivai. That this log of wood has been installed in the Mahavedi per its own wish. Now you should seal this area completely for the next 15 days. Okay? So bear in mind what's just happened. Indradyumna, he performed his Ashwamedha Yajna, and at the end of the Ashwamedha Yajna, he went to take his Avabrita Snan, his sacred bath. He did that in the Mahadadi in the ocean. There, and that place is known as Chakra Nishringa. That's the place where the log of wood came to the shore. And they took that log to the place which is now known as Gundicha. And the voice said, so you steal this place off completely for 15 days. Those 15 days today are known as anavasara. And this is the origin of these 15 days. At that time, a very old man appeared, and he requested to go inside to carve the deities. And that old man, they say, was actually Vishvakarma, the architect of the heavenly planets. And he said, I'll carve these deities, but on one condition. No one should disturb me in my work. And I'll stay in this room for 15 days. And in the meantime, on the outside, you should have some musicians playing all the time so you don't hear any sound of the carving work or anything. So then Vishvakarma began his work. And according to the local tradition of Puri and the Stala Puranas there, it's described that on the first day, he was thinking, who should I carve? Maybe I'll carve Suryadev because he's the Adidev, he's the first deity of the Vedas. But then he thought, no, you can only worship Suryadev in the daytime. And this deity, that's not very good. This deity should be worshipped all the time. So then on the second day, he thought, I'll make a deity of Agni, because Agni deity is the most important deity of the Vedic period. But then he thought, no, that's not good either. Agni Dev is not so first class because fire, which is Agni, attracts insects and burns them. That's not a very nice thing. How come that's not a good deity? So then the third day, he thought about carving a deity of a tree. But then he thought, no, that's also not good because trees get old and eventually die. On the fourth day, he decided to carve a yoga chakra. But then he thought, no, it might be too weird. People aren't going to be able to understand this. And then on the fifth day, he thought about making a deity of Rudra, angry form of Lord Shiva. But then he thought the deity will be so angry, it won't be suitable for everyone to worship. On the sixth day, he decided that I'll make the Bhoga Shayana Murti of Vishnu, who's known as Ananta Vasudeva, whose deity form is there today in Bhubaneswar. That's another long story. There's a lot of connections and things. I told everybody we're going to have a lot of details. I hope everyone can follow this. So he thought, no, Ananta Vasudeva, it won't be accepted by everyone. So then the seventh day, he thought, we'll make a deity of Adya Bhubaneshwari. But Bhubaneshwari is a deity of Durga, the sister of Lord Jagannath. But then he thought, no, if we do that, then it's going to attract a lot of tantric people, and it'll become a Shakti pit, a place of Shakti. That's not good. Then the eighth day, he thought, we'll make a deity of Mahaganapati, Ganesh. But then he thought, no, that's also not good. It won't be appreciated by everybody. Then on the ninth day, he decided to make a Sri Chakra, or a chakra of Lakshmi Devi. But then again, he thought, nobody's going to understand that. We're not going to do that. On the 10th day, he decided, I'm going to carve a Pranava deity, a Pranava Omkar, because the Omkar includes all traditions and appeals to everyone. So then he started carving his four deities, Balaram, Subhadra, Jagannath, and Sudarshan, four deities, representing the four elements of the Pranava symbol which form the face of Lord Jagannath. That was on the 10th day. Then on the 11th day, there's a ceremony called Lepa Sanskar, wrapping the body in layers. We generally think of Jagannath as Daru Brahma, or a wooden form of the Lord. But actually, Lord Jagannath has 7 different layers. And it's complicated. I don't know if we want to discuss all that. Krishna Kun's shaking her head no. We can just mention that just as a human body You can see Prabhupada's verse in purport to Bhagavatam 10:2-27. And Prabhupada writes in the word-for-word synonyms, he says that saptatvak, the verse describes, having 7 coverings: skin, blood, muscle, bone, fat, marrow, and semen. These are the 7 coverings of the body. And this verse speaks about the Adi Briksha, the original tree of the body. So that original tree is Jagannath, he's a Daru. So then finally, on the 15th day, it was known as Uba Amavasya. And the doors were open, and the king was able to have darshan of the deities. That day, today, so 15 days after the Anavasya starts, that day today is known as Nava Yovana Darshan, or sometimes it's called Netra Utsav. Netra Utsav means the festival of the eyes. Nava Yovana Darshan means to see the new form of the Lord. Because during this time, Lord Jagannath gets his public bath, and this is the only physical bath that Lord Jagannath takes all year long. The rest of the time, they bathe him with a mirror. They put a mirror in front of him and they pour some water on the mirror. It's only during the anavasara period, during the Snan Yatra festival, they actually pour water on the deity. And the deity becomes damaged. Because although Lord Jagannath, the basis of his form is wood, he has 7 different layers on. And those layers become a little damaged. You can see maybe in the camera here, this red cloth. This is part of the body of Lord Jagannath. And there's a Panda friend of ours who's one of the persons who's a Daityapati, who refurbishes the body of Lord Jagannath, and he gave me this. This rope also is Mahaprasad from Lord Jagannath. It's what they used to tie him to the cart with. So Lord Jagannath's body becomes a little disfigured. Another aspect of this is that Lord Jagannath, the colors they use, and it's not that they use oil paints to paint him with, the black is made from honey. They put in a silver pot and they burn some flame under it, and it makes some black soot. And the red color comes from some red, and the blue colors, and the yellow color, comes from different oxides, mineral oxides, natural minerals, and the white color comes from ground up conch shells. So those colors, they run when Lord Jagannath has a bath like that. So now I'd like to go back again. We've been speaking about the anavasara and its connection with Ratha Yatra. Now I want to go back, and we were saying something about how this anavasara, it's the meaning of anavasara, and how anavasara means getting a small breath to move toward love. Ana again means a small, insignificant breath. Ava means some determination. Avas means some satisfaction. It also means some wealth. Vas means to dwell. And Sara means to move. Anavasara. So getting a small breath to move toward love. Now, Lord Jagannath's not being worshipped by everyone. He's not having such a public program anymore. Now he's getting a small breath, and he's fixing his determination to move toward love, which is Ratha Yatra. And again, this is very significant for those of us who are being locked down now, because now we're getting a small breath away from all the constant bombardment of information. So we mentioned about the wedding of Lakshmi and Jagannath, and how Lord Jagannath and Lakshmi, it was very romantic. They tied the knot in the cloth. And so during those 15 days of the Anavasya period, Lakshmi Devi, she's the best wife in the universe. She doesn't sleep for 15 days. All ladies should pay attention to that. She does not sleep for 15 days. She just serves her husband like anything. Now, after 15 days, you can't really blame her. She becomes really, really tired after 14 days of not sleeping. And after 14 days, she falls asleep. And then what does Lord Jagannath do? Lord Jagannath immediately looks both ways, and he unties the knot that was tying his cloth to the cloth of Lakshmi Devi. And then he leaves to go and see his girlfriends. That's on the second day of the bright half of the month of Ashada, which is Gundicha Yatra, the Ratha Yatra. Well, Lakshmi Devi, she sleeps for 2 days. She was really tired. Can't blame her. 14 days not sleeping, you'd be really tired. And so she wakes up and she looks around and she says, "Where's my husband?" And they tell her, "Well, sorry, he kind of sort of went to see his girlfriends." Mm-hmm. And Lakshmi Devi's very disturbed by that. "My husband, we just got married. This is very, very bad." Mm-hmm. And so she doesn't want to stay on the altar. She doesn't want to be worshipped. And this happens in the Jagannath Mandir. Lakshmi Devi, a small deity, she goes and stays in the go-down. And she only eats very poor food, known as dalua rice and kalamba sag. This kalamba sag is some weed that grows in the villages. People find that and they make that into a kind of spinach. And dalua rice is very poor rice because she doesn't want it, and she doesn't take bath during this period. She doesn't decorate herself. She wears very old clothes. So we've been reading these stories mostly coming from a book called Vamadev Samhita, which is one of the main literatures in the Jagannath Mandir, giving the rituals and history and tradition of the worship of Lord Jagannath. And in the 16th chapter, it said that when Lakshmi Devi wakes up, she spends a few days like this, staying in the go-down, and then she goes to visit her girlfriend, because that's what you do, right? If your husband leaves to go with another girl, you go and you complain to your girlfriend. So she went to Bimala Devi, and she said, "My dear elderly lady, you already know what Jagannath did. What can I say? I'm his wife. At least he could have taken me with him. He took his sister with him. He took his brother with him. He could have taken me along with him. It's not good. In his absence, I've not even taken bath or anything." And Bimala Devi, she shakes her head. She says, "I know." She says, "All these men are alike." And she says, "Yada davovapi viveka shunyo pichutanam tatra prasidam eva chanam grihitvapi davopi yatra tatparshvakam gacha sureshwari tvam." She said, "It's well known that when a husband becomes viveka shunya, when he loses his good intelligence, he loses his brain, and he wants to go with some girl. Stupid fellow. So it's well known that the only thing you can do at that time, you have to use some magic." Bimala Devi tells you this, and she gives her some magic powder, some churnam grihitva. Churnam means powder. She gives some magic powder, and she says, "You go to your husband and you blow this in his face." As we often comment, I think if someone could market that powder, they could make a lot of money. So then the following morning, and now it's been 5 days since Lord Jagannath left, right? Mark 5. Each one of these days has some significance. And this is why in Jagannath Puri, they're very attached to the Ratha Yatra should take place on a particular date that's given according to the Skanda Purana. All these dates have some purport. So the next day, the 5th day after Jagannath's departure, Lakshmi wakes up, and now she's become the Adira Nayika, means she's in a bad mood. Now she's become very angry. Whereas before, she felt a little sad. "Why my husband left me? It's not nice." So it's been 5 days, and with her, along with her associates now, first she takes baths, she puts on solid gold ornaments, she puts on her most opulent sari, excuse me, and along with her girlfriends, she goes to see Jagannath. The word Hera in Oriya language means to see, and Panchami means the 5th day. So this festival is called Hera Panchami, on the 5th day when Lakshmi Devi goes to see. Sometimes it's called Lakshmi Vijayotsava, the victory celebration of Lakshmi. So now Lakshmi Devi has become very angry, and she goes to the Gundicha Mandir to see her husband. And that's a long story. I'm not going to tell many details of that. It's a whole nother katha, practically. But she goes inside the Gundicha temple, and Lord Jagannath's having a good time with his girlfriends and all the ladies and things. And all of a sudden he looks up, and there's his wife. "Lakshmi Devi, so nice to see you here." And Lakshmi Devi doesn't say anything. She just opens her hand and she takes some powder. She goes, and she blows it in Jagannath's face. And then Jagannath realizes, now I'm in big trouble. And so that happens on the 5th day. 2 days later, Lord Jagannath leaves the Gundicha, and that's known as the Bahuda Rath, or the return Ratha yatra. And Lord Jagannath comes out, and at that time there's another festival that goes on, another ritual. The king of Puri acts like a marriage counselor. And he goes to see Lakshmi Devi, and there's a ceremony called Lakshmi Narayan Bet. And he goes to see her, and he says, Jagannath really loves you, and he feels very, very bad. And he's returning to see, he's over there, he sent you some nice elephant to ride on. Although Lakshmi Devi, one of her names is Gaja Lakshmi, she generally rides an elephant. This time she refuses. No, I won't do that. So this usually takes place on the 10th day of the bright fortnight of the month of Ashada. And then the next day, which is known as Bahuda Ekadasi, or the return Ekadasi, Jagannath wears a special dress called Sunavesh. It's, they say that on that day, between the three deities, Jagannath, Balari, Subhadra, they're wearing over 1 ton of solid gold ornaments. He has a gold crown, he has gold earrings, gold necklace, gold nose ring, all gold ornaments. Very ancient gold ornaments, which are kept in one of the basement rooms, lock-up rooms in the Jagannath Mandir. And then the next day, there's again what they call the Pahandi. And Balaram and Subhadra, along with Sudarshan, they go inside the Jagannath Mandir, and everybody's beating drums and blowing horns and saying, Shri Balaram Ji ki jai, Subhadra Mai ki jai. And then Jagannath is known as Kaliya, the black one, or also known as Chakadola, or the round-eyed Lord. He starts to go inside. But when he comes to the gate, the Singadwara gate, the door is slammed shut in front of him. And there's a voice from the other side of the door which says, practically the only thing I know to say in Oriya, I know a few more words, but it says, Prabeshni shade, entrance forbidden, because that's what I always hear in Jagannath Puri. And Lord Jagannath, he's refused entrance into his own temple. Sometimes the Western devotees, they feel a little sad not being allowed inside the Jagannath temple. I tell them, don't feel bad. It happens. Even Lakshmi Devi, there's a nice story, another whole different discussion. Lakshmi Devi sometimes becomes locked out. And Lord Jagannath, every year, he gets locked out of the Jagannath Mandir. It's a part of the Ratha Yatra festival. It's a part of the journey of love, which begins with the anavasara period. And so Lord Jagannath, he sends what we would call in Old English a bard. Bard means someone who's a messenger who sings. And he goes and he sings a romantic song, standing outside the gate of the Jagannath Mandir. And he's singing that Jagannath really loves Lakshmi Devi, and he feels really bad, and he wants to come back to his wife. And then there's a voice from the other side of the door, a lady's voice, who said, go away. So it's a little discouraging for Lord Jagannath. And this goes on for some time until finally they make so many appeals and the door is finally open. And then with great fanfare and pomp, they're blowing the horns and banging drums and gongs, and everyone's shouting, Sri Jagannath Swami ki jai. Lord Jagannath enters into the Singadwara gate. And then he comes to he goes up the 22 steps, and he comes to the inner Jai Vijay gate. And he finds that gate has been slammed shut. And at that time, Lakshmi Devi, she sends one of her girlfriends to give a message to Lord Jagannath, which is found in the Vamadev Samhita. And the Vamadev Samhita describes the words of Lakshmi Devi to Lord Jagannath. She says, Atastalismakam mapi Devi chandistita vibo asman stali pitvat sokyam deva nasti priya nahi. Said, you tell my dear husband that he wants to find his loving, sweet wife, but he won't find her. All that he's going to find here is a goddess Chandi. Now, for those of you who don't come from a Hindu background, you may not know who goddess Chandi is. Chandi is an expansion of Lakshmi Devi's expansion, Durga. But Chandi, you can recognize her. She's a very ferocious and angry form of Durga. And you can recognize Chandi. In one hand, she has a huge chopper. And in the other hand, she has the head of a man in it. So Lakshmi Devi is giving this message. You tell my dear husband that his sweet, loving wife is not here. All that he's going to find is goddess Chandi with a chopper. You should go somewhere else. And then she tells him, Chandanadi Sugandam Yad Bhaksha Bojadi Kamcha Yat Idam Virahinistanam Tatstanam Gakshahe Vibho. So I know my husband. He likes very nice food. He likes nice sandalwood paste. He likes nice oils and things. Tell him he's not going to find these things here. And his girlfriends must be missing him. So he should go home to his girlfriends. Go away. And then again, Lakshmi, Jagannath appeals to Lakshmi in so many different ways. So his representative and say, Jagannath, he really loves Lakshmi. He brought her some new earrings. He brought her a new sari. And again, Lakshmi Devi just says, go, I don't want a new sari. I'm the goddess of fortune. I don't need those things. And finally, this goes on every year in Jagannath Puri. They make huge pots of rasgullas. Lakshmi Devi likes rasgullas. And they bring those before Lakshmi Devi. And then Lakshmi Devi says, okay. And Jagannath comes in, he says, what can I say? I was with my elder brother Balaram. How could you come with me? Because in Arisen culture to this day, the wife becomes very shy when she sees her husband's older brother. She won't come around. And so then Jagannath returns to the temple, and that's called Niladri Vijay. That's Jagannath's third birthday. The first birthday is Janmashtami. The second birthday is Snan Purnima, and that's the day that Lord Jagannath appeared in the Gundicha temple, which corresponds to Vrindavan. And the third birthday of Lord Jagannath is Niladri Vijay. That's the day originally when Lord Jagannath was installed in the temple. And again, this is why in Jagannath Puri, they're very, very particular about the particular dates of Lord Jagannath's festivals. So then Lord Jagannath returns to the festival, to the temple. It's the end of the Ratha yatra. Lord Jagannath's put back on the altar, and Lakshmi Devi's returned with him. But not quite everything is finished. There's one last thing they do, one last ritual. They put Lakshmi Devi next to Jagannath, and then they take the cloth of Lord Jagannath and the cloth of Lakshmi Devi, and again they tie a knot in it. And so in this way, there's a full circle of events. And this is the Lord Jagannath's lockdown, which leads to the Ratha yatra. Our journey begins with our desire. The journey begins with some planning, which in turn begins with our desire. So the desire of Lord Jagannath is represented by the anavasara, which means getting a small breath to move toward love. And again, the Ratha yatra means to rescue God from mechanical religion and bring him to the village of our heart. And that village, in this case, represents the Gundicha Mandir, where Lord Jagannath was installed and where he was worshipped in a very, very sweet way by the Sabaras, in the mood of Vrindavan. So I'd like to stop here, and I want to congratulate all the devotees in Vrindavan, in New York, also in Vrindavan. We're thinking about Vrindavan. The New York devotees who are working so hard to establish Srila Prabhupada's Brooklyn Temple and the worship of Sri Sri Radha Govinda, and all the devotees who are taking part in this kirtan. I want to encourage you to please help support that temple. It must be a difficult time right now. when nobody can go to the temple and they have lots of expenses and things. If you can give something to help, it'll be very good for you. It'll be very good for your bhakti and very good also for Srila Prabhupada's movement and mission. So thank you very much for taking part in this today. These are some meditations about the purport of anavasara and the purport of Ratha yatra, and how, again, anavasara means to get a breath, to get a breath by which I move toward love. And that moving toward love is a Ratha yatra festival. So I wonder if anybody online has any comments or reflections they'd like to share. You can go ahead and do that. We have a couple minutes left, I think, before we stop. Some devotees share. Would you like to say anything? Okay. Anapayani? Come close up here.
Thank you so much for this katha. For me, it was really nice to hear the sequence beginning with this wedding and how Jagannath came back from this journey, to see all this journey finally, like in a sequence. Because for me, it was difficult every time. I was thinking, what is after what, and I was completely confused. Now it's just like kind of system to see the story. And I really like this point, this small breeze towards the love, and how Ratha yatra is moving towards the love. Thank you so much. So many
and that's our period too. I think it's a nice example for ourselves. So we have a small breath now. Mm-hmm. There's what they call weapons of mass distraction. Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking of. All the audio, the video, the internet, the Twitter, so many different things going on. And people, our minds are so constantly disturbed. We still have the internet there, and we're still disturbed by that. But at least during this time now, during this lockdown, we've all become a little more peaceful. And we get a chance to get a small breath so that we can move individually toward love. So this anavasara and the Ratha yatra also has some significance for us, I think, in that way. Mm-hmm. Okay? Krishna Kun, do you want to make any comment?
I just admired how our journey begins with planning and with our desire. And I was thinking about this same point actually, that desire means to be cultivating process of bhakti by which we can move towards our goal, and how we have an opportunity to do that now.
Krishna. So again, we want to thank everybody very much for taking part in this, and we want to support the Brooklyn Temple and Shri Radha Govinda, some of the first deities established by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada's very first place where he began preaching in the world. It's a very, very important temple, very, very dear place for Srila Prabhupada. And that's why I wanted to support this wonderful festival of this. Krishna Kun has another comment. Speak after Shada.
Just another quick thing. You mentioned how being locked out of the temple is part of the journey of love. And I was thinking about this, that also because locked out means there is separation, so that with Pralamba, without separation, love dies an untimely death. Mm-hmm. So that separation is necessary, that lockdown is necessary for us to go deeper in our body.
Nice, very nice thought. So I don't know if everybody could hear that, but she's saying that this journey of love also has an aspect of separation when Lord Jagannath is locked out of the temple. And so we're also experiencing that separation in some ways in our lives, right, from Krishna. So this lockdown for us, it helps us become closer to Krishna. Yeah, and Arundhati Mataji's here, Prabhupada's dear disciple. We miss your association, Mataji. It was very nice when you came to Jagannath Puri last time. And if anyone's interested, we're holed up in Mayapur right now. We're waiting to go back to Jagannath Puri, but if we go back there right now, the government's going to lock us up for 21 days in quarantine. We'll have our anavasara period. Instead of 15 days, it'll be 21, and they'll do it in a government place. So we're staying in Mayapur right now. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you all very much. Shri Jagannath Ratha Yatra Ki. Shri Jagannath Swami ki, Shri Jagannath Baladev Shrimati Subhadramaya Sudarshanju ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dhama ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Vansha Kalpadru Vishchan Kripa Sindhu